everybody, we are back. I've been meaning to review this for a few days, but I've accidentally bricked my phone, only just repairing it and having to re-download all the music files that I previously had, so it took me a while. But yeah, I'm back. I wasn't gone too long, it was just a week, so I don't think anyone would have noticed that I was struggling with anything. But what I have for you today is something to be excited about with this band for many reasons. So let's get into the brief description of the band. This is Parallel Dimension. This is their first album, Angular Perceptions, so they are pretty much a brand new band. It's the first album. They come from a location that is unusual for me because I don't believe I know any band that comes from this place. They're from Puerto Rico, so I don't know if there's that many metal bands in that area, but if not, then hopefully Parallel Dimension kind of opens kind of the realms of metal to that location, because they're a great band to just introduce to metal. They really kind of just show how great it is. So you got 8 tracks here, not a lot. But let me sell you on a really big point without even discussing anything musically about the album. I can still sell you on this. Their longest song is over 12 minutes. Now, some of you will be a little excited about that. But I said one song is over 12 minutes. Matter of fact, there's actually 2 songs that are over 12 minutes. Their shortest song is over 6 minutes. Now that should excite most of you, beside a person who wants something really simplistic, and if that's the case, then yeah, you shouldn't really be on this channel, because I go into bigger, better musical things than that. So, it lasts just over an hour, so it's pretty much just around 60 minutes. So I have had longer albums that I've reviewed, but it is only 8 tracks. If they obviously did the kind of basic 11 tracks, this would be unbelievably huge. It could be going for 2 hours if they did the same song length, so that's not too bad. So I've obviously sold you on the time, which obviously all songs over 6 minutes means there's going to have to be a lot of stuff in there to give variation and not repeat, which it does have. But it is a first album, and even though I do highly recommend this band to you and say that you would do a credit to yourself going and buying this, it does have a few flaws. Now obviously, as I say, I recommend the band. I think they are really, really, really good. I think it is worth the purchase and worth your good earned money. That's my opinion. I'm not saying you to actually go do that. I don't control you. But I would recommend it. But as I say, it is a first album. There are a few flaws, but as far as the first album goes, I'm seriously impressed. So let's just quickly, instead of go massively in depth, I'll try and do my usual in-depth things, but try and be quicker this time for all of you. So the first track, Into the Mind's Womb Overture, in brackets, is around 3 minutes. Now, yes, I have said that all the tracks are over 6, and now I've gone and said this is 3 minutes. This is an intro, so I haven't done something stupid. This is an intro, so I don't really say this is an actual track. Now, 3 minutes for an intro is definitely overly long, especially depending on what is within the intro. This intro is 3 minutes of not really the band. It is basically things like, you know, the horns and the orchestral kind of things. It's pretty much just 3 minutes of all that. It has build and it has urgency about it, so it starts all soft and then in the midsection it builds, and and then it starts kind of descending back down to lead into the first actual track. So yeah, some people will probably just ignore this because it's just 3 minutes of not much of anything, not really the band, and some people at least will just want to hear the band, so I'm sure a lot of people will skip it. It's not a track which just remains in itself. Like some intros, it's 3 minutes and then just stops dead, and then the first track actually has an intro into the first track, which makes the intro not an intro for the first track, but just something really random and silly. That's not the case with Into the Mind's Womb. Into the Mind's Womb does play in, so when the second Into the Mind's Womb ends, it trails into the song Hall of Mirrors. So you can just kind of argue maybe it is just an incredibly long intro. It is obviously 3 minutes, and then Hall of Mirrors, the second track itself, does have an intro that then leads into the song. So it is a very long intro if that's the case, because then you're looking at something like 4 bloody minutes of an intro. So it just depends if you want some really big intro that all ties together into the second song without it kind of cutting off randomly, which some intros do, which I just say to hell with them. The fact that it plays into it, and if you want something really big that takes its time and progresses, and you have orchestration that then leads into the band and then it kicks in and it takes its time, obviously you're going to like it, but for some, of course, you're probably not going to enjoy just how long it takes. So yeah, the first track, Hall of Mirrors, which is technically the second track, is a fairly long song. You're looking at something about 6 minutes. Let me just check how long this actually is. Actually, it's 8 minutes 20 seconds is Hall of Mirrors. So obviously it kind of starts eerily, kind of coming off of the previous track, and then the band eventually comes in. And then what you notice is you've got keys, you've got guitars that are a bit fast-paced and everything, but then at times they do open it up and just let the kind of keys and the kind of open light side of the guitars just kind of sing out in the midst of some more aggressive, fast-paced stuff, and then they'll, you know, just open the sound out, just hit a chord, hit a note, just let it ring out. The intro actually does kind of change pattern. It's not just this is the intro, this is the verse. The intro has about 3 or 4 different riff patterns that they go through. The drummer as well, you'll notice, is incredibly gifted. He's doing the kind of double bass, and he's just really fast, really intense. The keys obviously have moments where they kind of shine through and just give it that bit of kind of beauty to it, and then the guitar's obviously aggressive, fast, but also will go into the kind of beauty side of the keys every now and then. And then, as I say, the kind of riff changes about 4 times through this intro. And then when you actually get into the actual verse, the singer comes in, and he's a bit old school kind of sounding singer. He's not one of these modern sounding kind of singers. He's definitely kind of old school. He's kind of in the mid-range. He doesn't really have an overly deep voice, but it's not overly high. He sits somewhere in the middle. The verse, again, it's quite quick. It's not ultra fast. They do kind of change the riffs around. The drums are going at a rapid speed and everything. There's no real kind of lead over the top, which some people may be disappointed in, saying if they're this good of musicians, then why don't they have the rhythm in the lead? And yeah, I do kind of agree with that, but the riffs that they do put out are incredibly technical. Mostly all the time in every song they are playing very technical, and the riffs do constantly change, so it's not just a riff for a big, you know, chunk of the song. It's not just, well, the verse is going to have to be somewhere around the minute and this is the riff for a whole minute. They definitely do change it. Same with the drums, and the singer will kind of change his pitch and tone, and is kind of projecting, and you know the bass will change constantly, so you keep getting change of pacing, and as I say, the riffs are all really good, really technical stuff. So it's not a dull, simplistic riff for the sake of we need a riff. It is definitely something very interesting being put out. The chorus again kind of does the usual. It is the more open part of the song, giving something a bit more kind of musical, a bit more laid back. But even saying that, it's still kind of intense. It still has that kind of intensity about it, even though it is laid back and more open. The keys take more charge and everything. And then leading back into the verse, back into the chorus. And then after that, the song goes into more of a melody. The guitars kind of go to kind of a clean. The keys go to some lighter keys. I don't think it goes full on piano. I think it's just kind of light kind of key tone. And then it plays around like that. The voice goes melodic, so you've got the two different contrasts. You've had constant variations of intense riffs and intense keys with you know, the kind of beautiful sections and everything, so it's not just all just one solid intensity, because that would be a bit too much. You have to kind of keep breaking things apart to keep a natural kind of flow, instead of everything being on the same level consistent, which gets rather dull. So as I say, they do kind of break it up. You got the chorus, but now you got some proper melodic stuff, which is obviously very different to what's previously come. So it's great showing within one song all these different patterns and different formulas and different techniques. Incredibly amazing. Two completely different contrasts. The solo, there is I don't know if there's two or maybe even four. Basically, the solo, you have key solos and guitar solos. There is always a key solo, there is always a guitar solo. And they do last a fair while. I think in this song you have maybe guitar, maybe key first, and then it'll go over to the key or guitar. Then you'll get kind of riff, interlude kind of thing in the middle, which then leads you back into another solo. So the solo itself is probably around a minute or over, but if you include the kind of first portion and then the kind of interlude and then the next portion, you're definitely over a minute. It's a fairly long solo if you're looking at it like that. So yeah, a lot of great technicality being shown, a lot of amazing riffs, great vocals. The solos, as I say, it's really long, and as for the solos themselves, like the guitarist is incredible, so is the keyboardist. They show unbelievable technicality with what they're doing, but they don't, you know, it's not overly flash. It's not just we are always technical, which gets really dull. They use really difficult technical stuff along with catchy, more upbeat musical stuff, melodic stuff, and they just constantly change it. It's not just shred and you lose yourself into the shred because everything just blends and mushes together. They constantly are breaking things up and then changing the flow and the pattern so everything stands out and you can piece everything together well. It's incredible. Like they are really gifted. The guitarist just has unbelievable technicality to him. He definitely feels the solo, he definitely knows what he's doing, when to slow down, when to be more musical, when to open the sound up, when to go back to the shred, how much shred to use. Same with the keyboardist. It is just absolutely incredible, the both of them, the keys and the guitar. The solo is amazing. And as for the song, again, it is 8 minutes 20 seconds. You've got an intro that constantly changes riffs. You've got good sounding riffs. You have a drummer that's quite intense. It is really, really good. So the next track, What Lies Beyond. So this track is shorter, but again, it's over 6 minutes, so it's 6 minutes 6 seconds. Still relatively long. This song is definitely even more ferocious than the previous song. So this song has a faster pace to it. The verse has definitely a lot more of an aggressive sound to it and everything. Again, it's not just aggressive with big, chunky, power fucking chords being hit. It definitely sounds dark and moody and gritty and aggressive, but it still sounds musical. It is musical what they are doing, and they pull it off, which is hard when you're trying to do something so moody and gritty and aggressive, yet still have that kind of musical element in there, which they definitely pull off. The solo is shorter than Hall of Mirrors in What Lies Beyond, but again, Hall of Mirrors, the solo was pretty fucking long, so you're still looking at probably around a bloody minute or something. And then it starts with keys, I think, then it goes to guitar, and again, it's technical, there's a lot of musical elements, and it just sounds amazing. The technical stuff sounds really, really technical, and then the musical stuff really stands out. It's really kind of catchy, it sounds amazing. The next track, you're looking at the musical melody track of the album. It's the only one, so this is Orogeny. I don't know how to pronounce it, it's Orogeny. I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce it. This is longer, you're looking at 7 minutes 31 seconds. Now, it is the melodic track of the album, and I don't think they do it super well. I think it's a little messy. It's not bad, but it's not great like the other two tracks have been. It's really good, but I don't think it's great. I don't think it's bad. It is good though. So the way they kind of do this track is just kind of clean channel stuff, clean vocals. And then when it gets to the chorus, it's this kind of typical kind of open thing where they kind of go to the dirty channel and the voice kind of goes higher. It is very typical. A lot of bands do this, where it's just like the verses are the melodic, and then the choruses are the heavy parts. And then near the end of the song, it kind of sticks with a chorus and a bridge, and then you're solo in the chorus, therefore the end is kind of heavier part. It's typical of a lot of bands, which obviously does badly affect this track, because it is quite typical of how others will approach a melodic track. So there's nothing really surprising, it's a bit predictable. But musically, as far as it goes, as I say, they got talent, they do have good musicianship and everything. The solo, again, a more kind of melodic bass solo sounds incredible. But again, I think the problem is basically just they don't have that kind of ear for melody that the really gifted melodic bands kind of have, which nail melody. It's hard to pull off, definitely. Probably harder than just a typical heavy song. It's definitely really, really difficult to pull off a really catchy, engaging melodic track without it just being slow and boring. So yeah, it's not slow and boring. It's just when you do a melody, it can't be slow and it can't be boring, which they achieve. But you also need emotion in it, and I don't really get emotion. I just get a good performance. But if it's a melodic, you definitely need that emotion, and it definitely does kind of cripple the song in a pretty bad way. As I say, it is a good performance. Everyone does kind of play to point. I just think it needed a bit more kind of a musical aspect to the voice, as well as the kind of band and everything. They all sound good, but it just needed to be a bit more kind of musical and a bit more kind of beauty and emotion put in, or just something a bit darker. It just sounds a bit kind of bright and a bit hollow, which is a shame. But again, the solo is really good. The performances are great and all, but yeah, it could be better. The next track, Hollow Hourglass (brackets A Beautiful Lie). So this is 12 minutes dead. So 12 minutes, no seconds, just dead on 12 minutes. So there is a lot to this song, but in certain ways they kind of cheat the system, and then they do something really stupid. This, for me personally, which is going to be hard to believe since I say it's 12 minutes, and a song of 12 minutes is usually a good thing if you can pull it off. A lot of you would agree. This is the worst track of the album, and when I explain it, it will make sense. So the way they utilise the 12 minutes is basically cheating, and I'll explain that and explain the stupid thing that they've removed. You probably gathered what they've took out of this song, because it's the usual thing that annoys me, so I'm sure a lot of you have caught on. So, the intro. It's an intro that constantly changes, it keeps evolving, they keep changing the riffs, kind of like Hall of Mirrors, but the thing with Hall of Mirrors is it takes about a minute for this verse again. This intro that goes through different just riffs, which, again, I'm fine with, but they are just riffs. Therefore, 3 minutes of just riffs to get into the actual verse is a bit much. Now, if that was just it, then fine, I can forgive that. But then you get the kind of verse, and you get the chorus, and then you get the verse and the chorus, and then you get to kind of the bridge section, and they do the same thing. It is just a massive, like, 2-3 minutes of just riffs, and that is it. Near the end of the track, I think they do it again. Therefore, what you've got is probably just, let's say, an 8-minute of what the song is if you take out all the kind of pointless riffs. You're probably looking at 8 minutes, but they've extended it to 12 by basically just giving a lot of riffs with nothing else. So you've got to go through minutes and minutes of riffs, which you don't do. If you look at solo artists who do kind of the drums and the guitars and everything, and the guitars usually lead, which, let's say, it probably does here. Steve Vai, Joe Satriani, Yngwie Malmsteen, all guys like that, Buckethead. They don't have any song which is probably just riffs. They'll have riffs, but then they'll have leads. You don't get that anywhere. And by leads not being anywhere, I literally mean there is no leads. I've listened to this song so much, I've tried pulling it apart to see, I wonder if there's just a tiny short lead somewhere. I don't think there is. Now obviously there's some riffs that sound a bit kind of technical compared to a typical riff, but it's still a riff. It's just a repeated pattern of some kind of fast, difficult sounding riff. It may be easy for all I know, but it sounds complicated, some of the riffs, but it's just a riff. It is not a lead. So yeah, you've got 8 minutes of what the actual song is, and then you've got something like 4-5 minutes of just riffs to go through, which really stops the song. The intro, because it's the first out the gates, it's just a build-up and you can enjoy the riffs for what they are. Then the song starts and then it does the break, and then it kind of pulls you out, and then it goes on for ages, and then you're not really listening anymore. You kind of just fade out and just wait for the singer to come back, and then he does, and then it breaks again, and then you're just out of it again. So the song just has all these moments that are just so boring, and you just don't listen to, and you're not invested, and you're not listening, and you don't care. And then when the actual song comes in, because you constantly pull in and out and in and out, it makes everything extremely inconsistent. And then because it's still the same song, you still have that kind of mindset of this isn't great. The actual verses and, choruses and the kind of bridge sections and things with the whole band and, the singer, it's perfectly fine. But without kind of like shorter riffs that I can just focus on a riff by itself instead of just being completely took out and just forgetting the whole thing because I'm not interested, and then being took out of other aspects like not having a solo, something a bit more musical to break things up, a lead. it's quite stale. It's not great. It is a real big problem, unfortunately. But as I say, there is good riffs. All the riffs are good and they are technical. The singer is really good. And the verse and the choruses, they're fine. It's just there is so much of not much to get through to get to something which is a bit more. And not having a solo in this song, I don't understand. You have a keyboardist, a guitarist. They've been doing over a minute solos for all the tracks. It makes no bloody sense. It's really stupid. And I don't get it. So let's just get on to the next track, Horizons. This is 6 minutes, 7 seconds. Now Horizons starts off pretty much immediately. It's a pretty heavy song again. It's got this kind of mid-tempo thing about it, but it's got the riffs that they're doing like kind of pinched harmonics and making the strings like vibrate with intensity, just making everything kind of like scream with these some notes and everything. So they'll be doing all these, you know, fast, intense, technical sounding riffs, and they'll have this little kind of break of this absolute shriek of a tone come out of the guitar at times, and obviously it just makes it sound really kind of big, really epic. It's impactful. And the singer kind of does the same thing. He sings with a bit more kind of ferocity and intensity with this. There's again, the riffs constantly keep changing, so when the verse actually starts, they have one of these kind of pinch, shrieking, harmonic style things, and then after that, it doesn't go back to it, they just do something different, which obviously is really good. The solo in this song is a bit further in the back, so sometimes when I'm not really paying attention, I do kind of miss it, because you expect the solo to come after the second chorus, after a bridge or something. But this is kind of like after the first chorus or something, or somewhere within the kind of second verse, so it's a little kind of out of place. The solo itself, again, you got keys, and then it leads into guitar. It is the shortest solo so far. There's nothing wrong with it, it's just obviously they sound great. The key sounds great, the guitar sounds great, what they put out sounds great, because it's quite short and it's so amazing what they've done. It leaves you kind of wanting more, especially with the solo here. As I said, the solo is great, but because it's short and they've done longer, and because it's so great and you just think they kind of cut it off, you want the rest of it, you want more. Whereas for the song, it is probably the most... Yeah, it probably is the most simplistic song, Horizons, as well as What Lies Beyond. They're probably the two most simplest, probably because they're the shortest, both pretty much 6 minutes dead. So, yeah, Horizons is just this really high energy, quick pace song throughout. That constantly have these shrill, kind of screeched kind of leads from the guitar coming out, and then the more kind of open chorus. And that's pretty much Horizon, so it is quite simple in structure, but it is a very high energy song. And going on to the next track, Vanishing Illusion. This one starts soft and then kind of builds. So because of that, that's obviously really good, starting kind of soft, and then that'll last for I think about a minute or two, and then it goes into the actual style of the song, which is you know, a bit heavier. It's not super heavy, it is a bit of a mid-tempo kind of song, and the solo, again in this, you've got the keys and you've got the guitar. It sounds great. It is longer than what Horizons was. I still think it could be a bit longer, but it is, as far as solos these days go, it is a pretty long solo. And again, they both sound really good. And yeah, you've got riffs constantly changing, you've got the melodic mixed with the kind of heavy. So the last track, Delicate Violence, is again the second track, which is over 12 minutes. So this is 12 minutes 17 seconds. It has a special guest, Nicole Carlos-Julio. Probably haven't pronounced that right, but it's Nicole something. Yeah, she's a female. She sings in most parts of this. It's not just a small kind of section. She is scattered throughout this song, which she doesn't, take the front and center of vocals, which the previous band, their special guest took the whole song for most of the album, which was really stupid. But she is, utilized. She does have a pretty impactful, presence in this track. So this track, it's probably the least heavy track, without being, the melodic track. The melodic track's obviously the least heavy, but this is the heaviest, least heavy track. It sounds really stupid, but you know what I mean. So 12 minutes 17. It starts quite kind of gentle, kind of slow and everything, and then it kind of builds, and then you got your female singer. She obviously gives a good contrast from the male vocalist, and you got a female singer just adding a lot more kind of variation to it, something completely brand new, something surprising, which is always great. Going through all the songs with just the male singer, obviously he keeps changing his style and everything, and there's nothing wrong with that, but getting a completely different style of voice is definitely kind of different and unique, so that's great. Going on from there, her first performance in the song, she's kind of in the kind of mid-range, mid-tempo thing. Her second part, she's a lot more open. It's definitely the kind of better part for her. When her voice is open, the band's open, she just kind of, sings everything out, and it sounds really, really great. And then the male comes in, and then he does the kind of same. Obviously, the female sounds better because she has the kind of more kind of angelic style of voice, being female. So that sounds great. The solo in this, again, you've got keys and guitar. It seems a little lost, kinda, because they do the typical thing of let's have a big extended kind of riff. So it's like riffs and riffs and riffs here, and then I think that was the solo, and then there's a riff kind of interlude again that then leads you into the second part of the solo. So it's just like, it's a bit messy, kind of having so many riffs engulf the solo, because you start kind of thinking, I wonder what's what, and it just becomes a little kind of messy. But again, solo sounds great. It's not as good as the kind of first three solos, but it is perfectly fine. There is a riff right at the end of the song which just sounds incredible. It's just a riff, that is it, but it's just how musical and how great it sounds is just amazing. It's not overly technical sounding. There's nothing, like, wow, that's hard, that's special. It just sounds great. And to come up with a riff that sounds great without it just being, a bland riff is still quite a feat. So the riff at the end, it's just so incredible. It's so musical. It is basically a lead. It is not just a kind of chord riff. It is this kind of lead interlude style kind of riff and pattern, and he kind of does it for a few kind of rotations. But I don't mind it because it sounds so beautiful, and it's just an unbelievably great way to kind of end the album. And that is basically the 8 tracks. So yeah, it is great. You've got a keyboardist who does solos on every track but one, and he's great. There's a lot of technicality, speed to it, and then slow musical catchy parts, and then a guitarist which is got melody and beauty and technicality to him and shred, and then the solos are really long, and all the tracks obviously being over 6 bloody minutes. You've got long intros with lots of differentiating kind of riffs. You've got verses where the guitars will constantly change their patterns, and then choruses, and then halfway through the song can completely change, like Hall of Mirrors. The first part is heavy, the next part is softer. Hollow Hourglass again obviously is a bit of a pain because you don't have any solo, and the majority that makes that song as long as it is just riffs that go on for minutes on end, which is kind of disappointing. I forgot one of the solos, which I think is in Horizons, goes to some kind of Tunisian lead guitar solo. So there's a key and then there's guitar solo, but then it kind of leads into this Tunisian solo sound, which is very unique and very weird. I think it's in Horizons at least. It could be in a different track, but I'm pretty sure it was Horizons. So again, and then obviously the last track, you've still got them using kind of riffs to try and extend the song out, which they shouldn't do that. They should, utilize the band, utilize the lead instead of just riffs trying to just extend it. The female Nicole in the song obviously adds definitely a lot of variety to the band because it's a female, it's a completely different sex compared to the male singer. So definitely varies it up, and then obviously the riff at the end, absolutely incredible. So the drummer has unbelievable technicality. He's got the double bass drums going and pounding the crap out of them. He knows when to slow down, but he's definitely ferocious with a lot of technicality. The guitarist, lots of technical riffs, constantly changing the riffs. Amazing leads, very quick and fast with energy, musical, shred, and catchy stuff. The keys have beauty, leads constantly changing through the song. Technicality, shred. The singer again has ferocity, intensity, and just an incredible voice. The songs all last over 6 minutes, therefore every song has not the typical pop formula. They keep changing, the riffs keep changing, the song keeps changing tones in some songs. You've got songs of 12 minutes where there's so many different variations to it. You've got some songs which are a bit more simplistic, like Horizons and What Lies Beyond, which are the more kind of simple, what you could argue is their kind of pop formula. But obviously there is still 6 minutes and there is a lot more there, and then you got solos which obviously add a fair bit to it as well. So a lot of great stuff. The bad stuff is basically there is one track without a solo, which comes across really stupid, seeing that every other track has a key and guitar solo, both lasting fairly long, both sounding incredibly talented, incredibly gifted. So it just really makes no bloody sense. It's 12 fucking minutes, and to go 12 bloody minutes of a song and have it mostly covered by 5 minutes of just plain riffs is a real stretch. Like, it starts to become a song that is big, has epic musicianship and vocals, into a chore to get through. And it should definitely not be a chore. No song should be a bloody chore to get through. So that is a huge bloody disappointment. Again, the solos for the second half could be a bit longer. Like Horizons, I just think they tried shortening the solos, same with Vanishing Illusion, as well as Delicate Violence. They seem to try and shorten the solos. They still sound great and everything, just the guitar solos in Order Jenny, What Lies Beyond, Hall of Mirrors. They seem to take as much time as they want to fully get across what they want to get across. As for in Horizons, Vanishing Illusion, and Delicate Violence, they seem to start epic, go on, and then seem to just kind of be cut off. They don't seem to really convey the full length of what they need to. So overall it is kind of perfect. You've got one track of 12 minutes again, which you know, a lot of riffs doing that, taking a solo out, that is really, really bad and a bit of a chore. Second half of the album, the solos are shorter, but they are incredible for what is there. And in the first 3 tracks, the solos are very, very long, absolutely amazing. There is an intro track that lasts 3 minutes, which will be a problem for some people, but it does play into Hall of Mirrors, therefore you can just basically take it as a very long intro until the song starts, and when the song starts it is the whole thing amazing, so it depends on, you know, just who you are and how you think about it. So, obviously, first album, and for a first album, it is incredible. These musicians are incredible. Going forward, obviously, have to have solos in every song. It's stupid not to have a solo in every song when you have a keyboardist and guitarist this bloody incredible. You should not be missing solos. Keep the solos long. You're a progressive metal band. You have long songs. There is no time restraint. Do the long solos, make it sound like we've been giving plenty in the way of solos, instead of just, well, it sounds great, it's been great, therefore I don't have to do as much. Do a good length. No matter how good your solo is, always go for a really good, solid, lengthy solo. And yeah, take out massive sections of riffs, because it starts to really kind of slow the song down and just feel like there's nothing. If you want to extend something with riffs, put a lead over the top of it, or multiple kind of lead interludes. That will definitely help if you want to extend the song that way. And yeah, other than them things, which obviously sounds like a fair bit, it's really not. It's not a lot of complaints. Just fix that, you have got a really incredible album. So, rating this, I am going to give it... I'm going to give this an 8.3. It is a great album, but I don't think it achieves the 8.5, which is like the next kind of caliber kind of thing, just because there is a fair few flaws. You have to kind of start being kind of perfect to get that kind of 8.5 upwards momentum, and then it's just how perfect and what you've utilised within that to get you to that 10. So 8.3 for this, and as I say, highly recommend. These guys are definitely very talented. So hope you enjoy this band. I hope it's a new band I've hopefully gotten you into. That would obviously be brilliant. And I hope this band sticks around, and I'm looking forward to following their career. So until their next album, and until my next review, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.